Three,
Three,
two,
two,
and one. Wait,
one.
double check, see if we're going live right now, because it's kind
We
of
are,
frozen.
because I got a notification. We
Alrighty
are
then.
live.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, guys, and gals. This is Chief and Cloud9 with you at the Shining Spotlight. We have with you none other than the founder of one of the largest, if not the largest, I should say, convention in Michigan. Youmacon going 12 cons now. Morgan Kollin, people.
Woo,
Hello,
yeah.
hello everyone.
Oh man, I have to say, honestly, and I said this to you a million times before the stream and after. I'm pretty sure a lot of people who go to Youmacon every year would like to give you a thank you. I mean, me and Chief N right here, we became good friends through Youmacon. A couple of other friends,
Yes.
that happened. So I mean, it's been a booster. I've met people through this convention that I talk with today. So I'm just gonna give that to you. Another
Yes. Thank
round
you.
of applause for that.
Thank you.
Um, Now, I guess to kick things off, I want to say, what does it feel like to have a convention so successful in today's day and age, and in Detroit of all places? Like, what goes through your mind every Youmacon once you hit the end?
Again, it's one of those just really amazing feelings, to be honest. It's really tough to put into words everything that goes into it year round, but fact is, by the end of the show, when I see so many smiling faces, I know that everything has been worth it.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean,
Okay.
that's certainly, I can only imagine, but I mean, I'm sure all of us with any of the goals that we all have in life, it can definitely can see that as a motivator to make your goals come into fruition. But was Youmacon actually like a dream of yours of sorts? Like, how did you actually materialize the idea to come up with this?
Well, the while I was over in high school, I had attended various conventions, very specifically gaming cons, as were hosted by the local gaming guild over at Oakland University. Now, when after I joined the Navy back in '98, I'd been over in Chicago now for about a year, and a buddy of mine asked me if I happened to have had duty this one weekend. I asked him what was going on. It's like, yeah, there's an anime con going down over in Chicago. It's like cool. It's like, yeah. It's like my brother's got a room. We're going, and that's how I ended up over at ASEN '99, my very first
It's
anime
in 99.
con, and I
Ace,
found myself by, yep, ASEN over in Chicago.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never been there, but I'm like,
And
oh, go
now
ahead.
from that point forward, I ended up meeting, I ended up meeting a lot of people throughout this time, and I was able to, after I transferred over to San Diego, I was able to go to a lot more conventions. But it wasn't until beginning of 2001 when I got to go to the very first OhioCon in Columbus, Ohio. They had just started up, and at that time, outside of Anime Central, the only other places you could really find a convention was either in California, Virginia, or Texas, and that was
Wow.
about it. And I had such an amazing experience at that very first OhioCon that I wanted to be able to share that with others. Um, so at that point, I literally spent the next 4 years learning as much as I could, assembling a team, and then we finally got around to launching the very first Youmacon in 2005 at the old Troy Hilton.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's actually interesting because me and Everin, or me and Cloud9, both attended Oakland University, and met a lot of great people there as well, and that led us to Youmacon, of course, and
Sorry,
and
I'm sorry, I got disconnected, guys. Can you say
oh
again?
I'm sorry. No, I was saying that I was saying that that's interesting because both me and Cloud Nine, we both attended Oakland University as well, and from there met a lot of people, and that transition into Youmacon. So here you said, I mean, it almost feels like fate, but the Ohio, what was the Ohio
Ohio
Con?
Con.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know about
so
Ohio.
Yes.
I've never been there, but I
you say you
mean, my
had
sister she lives in Ohio. Hmm?
no, I was curious. You said you had a lot of great experience there. Could mind mentioning a few of those experiences? Because since it was one of the major inspirations for Youmacon.
Yes. Um, it's just at the time there's very few events anywhere in the U.S. at this time, and I was able to, meet other people with, similar interests, and it was also since it was a much smaller show at the time, I was able to actually interact with some of the guests. I was able to really talk one on one with the staff. They weren't super overwhelmed. And just the passion all around from everything from the attendees, the guests, and the staff all around, it was just such a positive experience overall. I mean, I was able to go over there and watch shows that I had never seen. I got to talk to people about all sorts of different matters, and the environment that it built was just so glowingly, again, positive.
Do you feel like
I mean,
that Youmacon has reached a point where it surpassed Ohio Con at this point?
well, it's not fair to say because we're very again very different shows. We have different crews. We have, I mean, everyone puts different, mix on them. It's like no two shows are going to be alike.
Hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, I could. I mean, I know. I've been to, like, for example, even though this is completely different than Youmacon in terms of the audience that it brings, or a lot different, I should say. I mean, I went to Motor City Comic Con, and no, nothing against it, but I mean, even you can tell, like, it's just a different feel to it versus like Youmacon that's more like 24 hours. You have the panels to me feel a little bit more personable, at Youmacon. Like that's one thing I kind of feel like I like about Youmacon is the fact that feel even though it's a large con, it still feels like it's personal, down to earth. Like I'm not like afraid to walk up to someone and just speak to someone because I feel like at the end of the day, everybody for the most part, sees it as like almost like some sort of like therapy. That's like how one of my friends likes to describe the con. It's like or not necessarily therapy, but like a little. How does Chris say it, Nico? Do you know like what I'm referring to?
No, I mean that was pretty much it. It's therapeutic for him. It's a place where he can go to relate with people that are more for what he's down for. Is what he would how he would put it. Whereas anywhere else where he's going, whether it's work or with the family and whatnot, they can't really relate to his interests, or maybe they can to some degree. But it's like he's speaking a foreign language most of the
Yeah, like
time.
I feel like Youmacon, you don't just go there just for let's say and granted this is obviously like one of the big things at Youmacon for a lot of people, but if I guess to speak more from my own personal experience, I think that I go there more to be with the people more than I go there to meet the voice actors and everyone else. And I don't know if that was intentional. I mean, not to say that everyone else is important, but to create that very relaxing vibe. I'm not sure if that was something that you intended or.
No, that's one of our big missions overall is that despite the size that we've grown to, we try to keep to our small con roots as much as we can. We feel that there is just so much that we can do, and we're trying our best to keep that on a more personal level. Now, bringing up also again, like perfect example is Motor City Comic Con is a drastically different event than what we do. Theirs is entirely built around their celebrities and merch, and that's basically what their event is. The event closes at 5, but I mean, you've seen everything, one pass around. Youmacon itself, we've made sure that it's as immersive an event as we can possibly make it. we're there to make sure that you always have something going on 24 hours, all the way from Thursday through Sunday. And again, we're trying to build just great lasting experiences and memories for people.
Okay. Now, going back to 2005, what was tell me what was Youmacon like for your first official con release that year, and what were some issues you came across?
Like, did you feel like it was stressful?
Oh, it's like it's been a roller coaster all the way through everything. Now, I said I spent years, like 4 years solid, volunteering at other other conventions, staffing other events, and just trying to figure out what logistics worked, which ones didn't, and also getting everybody trained up to where they needed to be for that. So we came in, and even though we had everything planned, there were always things that we couldn't see or didn't have coming up. But I've got such an amazing crew that we've been able to make this thing go and grow. And it's like we don't always have the same people. We have people that have moved on. We have people that it's like we've seen families come out of the convention. We know a lot of people, including staffers, who have actually had families build up through the convention itself.
Hmm.
So it's an ever evolving uh, thing for us.
Okay. I don't know when you mentioned that, it just made me still think about that 1 year I saw someone propose on stage to his lady. I was like,
Well, not. I mean, I'm not going to put you completely on Front Street, Nico, but I mean, you've even have a couple friends that have made families out of Youmacon. You
yes,
know.
true, true. That is true.
Hmm.
Oh goodness. So what was okay? So every year you've technically been growing even further. Like no, there's been no year where the number of your attendees
Your
have
attention.
dropped before below any of the previous years. So
That is correct. We grow by roughly about 2,000 people a year,
Mm.
fascinating. So
sometimes more. Our very first year itself actually broke a lot of records when we first happened. Year one, it's like now, of course, during the time where I started planning and where we first executed things, we saw so much, change happen. We saw events starting to pop up all across the U.S., and a lot of the events over there were kind of averaging in the like 3 to 400 person range. Well said. We had been planning this for ages, and we had a significant amount of advertisement. And by the time we launched year one, we had 1,078 attendees. At the time, we were the largest first-year anime con,
Ever.
out there. Which was then, of course, like shortly blown away by Anime Boston, who had over 4,000 people.
all right.
Which was a funny one because they did something that's like really neat at the time, and they had it's like the voice actors for the main four pilots from Gundam Wing,
Oh my goodness.
which was
Uh,
amazing. It was absolutely amazing what they did, and they shot themselves in the foot at the same time because 4,000 was all they could hold at the
mhm.
hotel, and at the time they had a multi-year agreement, so they were stuck at that same hotel and had to cap their attendance for the next 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
But Anime Boston, if you ever get out there, it's a great event. It just keeps growing, and yeah, that is just a massive, massive show.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out because that's one thing I know personally I'm trying to like expand on. I mean, I go to some conventions in the area, but like actually go like out of town to be able to see what other states have to offer. I mean,
Mm.
I feel like obviously Youmacon is amazing, but then like what you were saying earlier, you get different experiences going to different cons. But here's something I've always been kind of curious about. when you first set up the con and you guys went through the process of being able to get special guests to come, like because I've never obviously I wasn't present to see this. I didn't go to the first Youmacon. My first Youmacon was actually in 2012. But what were the guests that you had that I guess were more acclaimed at the time? The ones that were like like the big name voice actors, and like what was it like for you to meet those voice actors to actually know that you actually were able to recruit them and bring them to your con for the first time?
No, it was really something amazing at the time because, and we had a lot of these guests stick with us for years, to come. Perfect example, of course, like we had, of course, Johnny Young Bosch, back then, and this was fairly early in his career. Well, actually, it's like his career was still young, although that's a very what was going on. It's funny to say it in that context because Johnny actually had a giant impact on me as a person. Now, of course, I'd watched him growing up with, Power Rangers, but it was his
Oh
very
yeah.
first role, which came out literally at the end of 1999, which was his breakthrough role in anime as Vash the Stampede.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Bash. Man, I love Trigun. So I know.
It's like Trigun was really, really, it's like an amazing show, and that's what actually pushed me further into things as well, with my love of anime. I've always loved anime. I grew up watching anime, like literally from like Captain Harlock and Gatchaman, then eventually Robotech. It's like Akira, and then just evolving through.
Mm.
I've literally been watching anime my entire life. Like heck, of course, I got to watch Voltron when it was first airing on TV.
What
Oh
about Gundam?
wow.
Like,
It's like Gundam. It's like I've seen a lot of. I mean, but I got to watch it mainly when it was coming out, either through fan subs in the late '90s,
Oh yeah.
up to being able to like just buy them video by video as they were slowly coming out here in the U.S. And now
how
I'm really happy because now we have all of Gundam being brought to us finally by Right Stuff,
Right.
who has been actually bringing out things that have previously been unavailable, and also
yeah,
it's
I've
like
seen that. I've seen Right Stuff before. I haven't gotten anything from it yet, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
so it's like they've been instrumental in actually working with Sunrise and bringing out all those titles. But no, it's like Gundam has had a pretty big impact on my life later on. But in itself, Gundam was one of those literally groundbreaking series. It's one of several. Um, the big difference up till then, you had mainly your Go Nagai style of giant robots. You have these super fighting robots that just defy. It's like all physics or logic. There's no rhyme or reason, but you can do it as long as you've got guts. But then Gundam came around and
Yes.
showed a realistic side to war, and just it actually focused on. It's like yes, it had the giant robot, but it was more about the pilot, the psychology of the pilot inside, and it also showed that there was no true good guy in the series either, because you had it's like Sion,
Yes.
who it's like yes, their leaders are evil, but you can tell that there's a lot of people there that are in it. They're fighting for what they're believing in. Then
Hmm.
you see Federation, where you have a few good people, but you also know that a lot of the top is very corrupt. So there's no actual good guy.
It's like all gray.
And it changed up everything again, changing, focusing on the actual psychology and what was really happening in there. This really changed the face of anime as we saw it. The next one to change up, now, the next two changes in anime in this sequence actually came about from Studio Gainax. The first one, because at this time they had actually been working on Mobile Suit Gundam for Sunrise, specifically doing like mecha fight sequences in the background. But then they finally came up with their very own standalone movie, which is the Royal Space Force: The Wings of Honiamis. It's an amazing film if you ever get a chance. It's finally been brought onto Blu-ray, and
Could you repeat that title one more time?
Oh, you
yes,
about to
it
write it
is
down?
It's the Royal Space Force, the Wings of Honiamis.
The
Now,
Wings of Homiami.
it's like you'll have to. It's like if you type it into Google, it'll probably correct you and it'll be fine. But what's really special about this one is that this specific movie is what actually brought anime more into the limelight than anything else, because this was the single movie that identified anime as an art form and not just Japanese cartoons.
Yeah, I recognize this art style. I'm trying to see who's. Man, I
Well
know
said.
it's obviously.
It's early Studio Gainax. This is before they had actually done Nadia, Secret of Blue Water, or the next one, which actually, again, changed the face of anime, which was Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Have you seen the redos? Like the what they had
Uh,
the
I've seen 1 and 2. I have not seen 3 yet. But yeah, Ava once again changed up everything as it completely changed. It's like it went focused so much more on the psychology than even Gundam had at that point. And again, it was just a complete game changer. And literally, you're looking at like a 10-year span in between each of these.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of have to like beat myself up a little bit when you're talking about like the different stuff about Gundam because I feel like I've always been hit and miss with Gundam. Like I love Gundam a lot, but like, okay, how many Gundam series have you actually seen? Like, have you like, because you know how like like you have the UC Century and then you have like the different timelines.
Now, I love love UC Gundam mostly. Now, a big question is, what was your first Gundam series? What was the one that got you started?
Okay, the one that got me started, to be honest with you, was G Gundam. You know, I love G Gundam still because I mean it's like the easiest. It's like the most shonen I guess Gundam if you have to give it some kind of title. But at the same time, I think I'm a bigger fan, and this is a later Gundam series. This is not even like both of them aren't even attached to UC, but like Gundam Double O. I love Gundam Double O. Like I love all the characters in there. You know, all the events that transpire. I like the idea that the world runs off of that doesn't use fossil fuels anymore. That they use solar energy for everything. And I don't know for some reason it just really connects me. Plus, I like the animation. I mean, I'm not saying I have a problem watching older stuff because I watch a lot of older stuff, and I've watched the most of the original Gundam, like Gundam 0079. But yeah, I haven't watched as
Now,
many.
now that's a great one actually. Now, of course, G Gundam is a very special in several ways series. Now, of course, that was put together as the very first of the AU series or the alternate universes, because at this point, uh, Gundam had become stale up to this point. You had, of course, amazing success with early, it's like Gundam series, but as like Zeta Gundam and Double Zeta came around, it started to get more and more ridiculous, I guess you could say. It wasn't as serious. It just kind of focused. At that point, it was a lot more about the mechs than it was about the actual pilot, which
Yeah.
delved quite a bit away from it. But then you had honestly terrible series like Victory Gundam, and then you had the movie of F90, F93, which was supposed to have been a TV series, but literally in production they were only about 13 episodes in, and they decided that they weren't going to give it a TV chance and condensed it into a movie,
I
and then
was
didn't continue it.
torn when I found that out.
Now, around this time, it's like they had several successful, OAVs, but they decided they wanted to try something different. So they said, hey, it's like we want to make something completely new, but we still want to use Gundams. Here's some basic guidelines and go at it. And the man to step up to that thing was Imagawa, who is one of my absolute favorite Japanese directors. He's also noted for the remake in uh, early 2000s of Tetsujin 28. It's really, really great retelling.
Tetsu's 28. I feel like I'm not even gonna lie. I'm
Gigantor.
not. Oh yeah, I know Gigantor. Now
So
this guy over here doesn't know Gigantor, but I've seen the the black and white and all that.
But
Watched
no,
it.
because they actually, it's like he redid it in, that's like using the original style art form as opposed to like the Gigantor that we got in the 90s. He actually went back to the original creators' art form to do this, and
Also,
it's
he
an
went back to
amazing.
the original like black and white version that we saw. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't even know that there was a version after that one. To be honest with you, I'm
Yep,
until
and
you just
it's
said
one of
that.
the most amazing series you'll ever come across. But he also made one of my favorite series, which is Giant Robo.
Giant Robo.
Giant Robo. It's amazing. It's like it's taking multiple series of the original creators' works and put it together in one amazing OAV series. It's tough to explain, but the interesting thing, aside from the fact that yes, the main character, basically controls this giant robot to fight off this crime syndicate known as Big Fire, but it's actually more about superheroes and the characters themselves than the robots. And it is, if you can find it, I believe it was released in the U.S. by Media Blasters, and it is a much must-see series.
Sounds like one of those gems that you would like have out there. Like we just have to, like it's funny because like we both know Mark Dudley. Like a lot of these like different stories that you're mentioning to me, like he'll mention about like how a lot of the things that you think would come out today that a lot of people would think about are nothing compared to a lot of these classics that you have way back whenever. It's almost like all of the good stories that came out, they came out way like we basically the stories that we got over here in the US early on were like all the great gems that you have from Japan, and then now like you have a lot of like bland or just mass produced stories that have no kind of like structure, or they're just obviously doing it just for fan service. So
And
like
actually, on that note,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually how we came across an American classic. And do you know what that classic is?
um
Enlighten us.
yeah.
Voltron.
Oh, Voltron.
Now, let me explain this one, because literally, the original version, Go Lion, is exactly how you were just explaining about all these series that are literally just cranked out with no real, substance of the sort. This was literally just something that was whipped together as just a one-shot series. We're just gonna pump this thing out, that everybody forgot about in Japan. But it was had such a cultural, significance over here that it has been redone, it's been reimagined multiple times over. What you have now is completely different than the other, and the funny thing is, in Japan, almost still no one has really cared about the original Go Lion. Even in video game series like Super Robot Wars, which will literally bring out any random mecha series, has only included Go Lion once, and that was only a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Jeez. Like
Completely, it's a series that was completely, it's like nobody cared about in Japan. It had the one season and was over with. But
but I think
here,
that happens
we just had a
sometimes.
25th anniversary or
Like didn't
30th anniversary.
didn't I remember when wasn't Cowboy Bebop actually a lot more successful? I mean, I know it's a completely different story, but I'm thinking like sometimes that happens. I know with different animes where you have they're way more successful over here than there. And they tend to be like the shorter ones because I think Cowboy Bebop, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. Somebody can correct me if I am, but I think that was a much bigger hit over here than it was over in Japan, which is why when Space Dandy was going to come out, they decided to simultaneously, like I think, release it both in Japan and the U.S. I think. Don't quote me on that.
No, so you may be right on that, but no, yes, Cowboy Bebop was an amazing series. Again, also came out in late 90s, around the same time as Trigun came out. And it was a very short period of time where specifically you had essentially a small window for space westerns to be essentially made over in Japan. They've only been made, here and there, but that just happened to be that point was the late 90s. But again, Cowboy Bebop has, persisted over all this time. Again, we just saw just a few years back that Trigun movie that came out, and it's always move forward, and that actually goes back to what you were mentioning before, like being able to meet people like Johnny Young Bosch. He was an absolute idol of mine. It's like he was one of the reasons I got so invested into anime because of just his performances, Bash the Stampede. Like after I watched Volume One, I mean it had literally come out like a day or two beforehand when I finally came across it. And I literally just watched this thing and went, you know what? It's like, this was a damn cool series. I
Oh
like the main
yes.
character's outfit. I think I'm going to make that. So I literally, the next day, went out, bought a sewing machine, fabric, all of like the sewing tools I needed, and literally just started sewing in the barracks.
Oh wow.
Well
Like
then.
this is when you were still in the service, I'm guessing, because you're
Oh yeah,
saying here. Oh.
yeah, I was still in the Navy when I started doing this. And it's actually because of that that I actually started out my very first business while I ironically was in the Navy, and that is Anime Tailors, which has now been in operation for about 18 years now.
Oh wow then. Anime
Perfect place
tailors.
for cosplayers to go get what they need, get their cosplay needs. See, the funny thing is, it's like I've never actually cosplayed. I mean, technically yes, but technically no. Like I don't count me putting on like a little headband as like a cosplay. I've seen some images that you had, where you were. I think it was one image where you did, yes, I did do a little snooping. Scott Pilgrim, am I correct?
Oh yes,
Okay,
yep.
or not? Or you didn't do Scott
I was
Pilgrim, but
playing
you
as
did.
Matthew
You did.
Patel.
Yeah, because I love that movie, man. I'm not even gonna lie, I watched that movie so many times, and I know about the graphic now. I've never actually read the graphic novel
The graphic novels are really amazing, but if you're going to do that, I actually recommend that you buy it on Kindle because it's like yes, they finally it's like originally it was in just black and white. When it was actually redone in color, it was actually intended with the color sets. I mean, yes, it's fine to read it in print form, but he intended the colors specifically to be viewed electronically, which
though.
also makes a lot more sense when you think about the world that he's created.
Well, yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense. I mean, everything's like a video game. I mean,
yeah,
literally.
Ryan Lee O'Malley is just awesome. There's so much more you're going to get out of it's like out of like the comics themselves because it's just a. I mean, yes, they did a decent job with the movie, but there is so
The
much
original
more.
source material is always better. I mean, that's almost like a fact almost. I mean, sometimes you'll have adaptations that do better, but it's the reason why it's adaptation.
But no, Matthew Patel was just great. I had a bunch of friends that were doing it. It took me forever to get all those pieces together. Uh, but yeah, Pirates are in this year.
So, what was I gonna say? Oh, Nico,
Yes.
you've been trying to do a cosplay coming up. Maybe you should go to Anime Fabrics. You should
I've
try to
I've
do a
I've,
doggone.
I've already listed it down. I'm trying to do a doggone Zero from Code Geass and another one from an MMORPG I played.
See, I would like to do Scar, to be honest with you. I'm not
Well,
exactly sure. Like, what do you have like in the shop to actually like? I guess if someone's really trying, I'm trying to go full in, full force. I'm trying to almost emulate the character as much as I can. Obviously without getting like any kind of you know permanent things done. what would I what would I look for in your store?
well, I don't have an actual storefront itself. I have a workshop, but that's more focused towards one of my other companies, which is the Detroit Leather Company.
Okay, Detroit Leather Company.
Yep, you can find that at DetroitLeather.com. But yeah, right now we're mainly set up more as a workshop. We don't have an actual physical storefront. We had one back in 2008 at the old Livonia Mall, which unfortunately is now a Walmart.
Well then.
I'm not surprised. It's funny. I almost feel like I'm about to get completely off tangent because when you mentioned Walmart, it just made me think about how the other day I watched a movie called The Founders, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this movie, but like this movie basically talks about like the creation of McDonald's.
McDonald's, yes,
Yep,
with
and
Michael
I'm like,
Keaton.
Hmm.
Great movie.
yes. And a friend of mine actually introduced me to this movie, and honestly, it like changed. I mean, I'm not saying I already had like a weird perspective of things that like big corporations and these massive companies or whatnot. But like when I mean, it made me think like I'm okay every time I pass a place now, like let's say McDonald's or Wendy's or freaking I guess Walmart, because it's a grocery store, and you think about where they started. I'm just like, how many people actually got cheated out of what they went through? I don't know, just something that popped up in my mind. But yeah, don't support Walmart, everybody. Um, moving on to better things. Okay, so I'm actually curious why, because it seems that you're actually a big fan of mech or whatever. Will we ever see like a guest like let's say Yoshiyuki Tomino? Like
Oh,
will we ever, is there a
oh
possibility
man.
that we would ever in the future, or is that something that you've actually tried to get, or I guess what is
Well,
what's the
now
perspective on
getting guests on the Japanese side is not an easy feat. There's a lot of things that are involved with something of that caliber, but it is something that we are always on the lookout for. If we can bring out the actual like creators, we will. It is something that we have. I mean, heck, we want to see how far we can push literally everything. Yeah, if we can get to Mino, by all means, yes. There are so many, creators and like voice actors and directors that we would love to actually be able to bring out. But despite, the size of the event, we're still, rather low on the totem pole as it is.
do you think if fans like of Youmacon actually contested, like, or not contested, but like not even to not to Youmacon, but to the actual places of business, like, hey, Yoshi Kitoma, we would love it if you could come over here. Do you think that that's something that would raise the chances of maybe them considering it?
It's always a chance. Again, we're trying to go through as many avenues as we can, but the thing is, we do want to start increasing the actual industry presence that we have from the Japanese side. We've been working on a few things, and we should have at least a few fun announcements coming out this year. I can't get us to Mino this year, unfortunately, but we are hoping to work with Sunrise in the near future,
Okay.
as well as we've also had talks in the past, which we're hoping will actually increase in the near future, specifically for um, Studio Trigger.
Oh yeah, the I guess the little sister of Gynax. I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, sometimes I mention Trigger and people don't know it. I'm like, but Trigger made Kill Kill, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, they did Kill la Kill,
Hmm.
um, Space Patrol Luluco, and also uh, Little Witch Academia.
Oh yeah, I know about that one. I think that one was kickstarted, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct, actually. Uh, it was part of a cultural program that was going on, and they actually it's like um, yeah, the bid for they actually they won that thing, but then yes, it was fully kickstarted for both the first and the second one, and it's absolutely amazing. And the new TV series is also very much. It's like if you liked the movies, you need to see it.
Huh.
I see someone Takari Smith said hello. So hello Takari Smith. I didn't see you right there.
Okay.
Let me see. Hold on.
Well, we got any more?
Well, comments. I don't see another
Okay.
comment right now.
Well, anyway, so going into kind of the gaming aspect of Youmacon, tell me what was it like going, or I guess if you can give any of us an idea of what the process is like getting all of those unique arcade systems, specifically like from
Oh yeah.
Japan and whatnot, like the Gundam pods and whatnot.
Now that's something that I can really go into, but let me tell you a little bit
Okay.
first about the history of Youmacon gaming. Now, when we first started out, we tried, as like if I remember right, we tried for like a year or two to try to like rent out systems through Rent-A-Center, ironically enough. But eventually, we looked into it and determined that it was going to be far cheaper for us to actually, it's like on an annual basis, to actually start buying up all of our own equipment. And
Hmm.
it's like, but the buying it, it's like, yeah, for a while it ended up being kind of our own. If you go from the Hogwarts thing, it was its own defense against the dark arts for a little bit there. Changing heads every once in a while because just trying to find the right people to do it.
All
But
right.
then we came across Cora Cantu, who currently runs Dead State Design and is the head of our gaming department. Now, at one point, to maintain everything of the sort, we came to the determination she was interested in actually, it's like branching out, but it wanted to make, I mean, it's a massive, massive undertaking. It's like not just to transport everything, but to make sure that everything is in good repair, make sure that it is actually, it's like properly updated, everything is unlocked,
No
and
chewing gum in the middle of
coming
it
down,
to make it stop working. I know I'm playing. I was saying is you're making sure everything is working.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, making sure that everything works, it's updated, everything is unlocked. There's a lot of things, and it literally was coming down to being a full-time job. And at one point, she determined that yes, it actually was. We talked things over, and we ended up agreeing to sell her all of our equipment. She started up her own company, and we worked. It's like we've been working together ever since. And hands down, like she helps orchestrate one of the absolute best, gaming rooms on the convention circuit. Now, from there, it's like we found, it's like she's found some amazing companies that we work with. I was lucky enough to meet Tokyo Attack when they were first starting up. That was under Bamani Invasion, and it's been just so fantastic watching each of these groups grow. Again, Dead State Design puts together some of the best, it's like video game, rooms you've ever seen. The arcade side, we have a lot of great people, but again, Tokyo Attack, Anthony has been able to put together like continually, just, arcade platforms and everything else that just keeps outdoing itself year after year.
Oh yeah, I think I love the game where I'm going in there, and especially the fact that there's like competitions and tournaments. Like I'm pretty competitive with Pokemon, so I think that I mean, I like the fact that you have something where somebody because for example, like if you play Pokemon competitively, those who play VGC out there know that there's not like really like big tournaments that happen here in Michigan. I almost feel like Youmacon gives me a place to be able to test what I can do, against other people who play.
Now, on that note, we are trying to get back into the competitive side. I know we had a giant push, and we've stepped a little bit back. Right now, we're still trying to figure out a few things as to how to better make everything work on that factor. But we do intend to actually bring back like the full-on like scale like tournaments like we did in the past, and push
Hmm.
that to whole different levels. I remember that the other year when we actually had our first big gaming push there for the competitive side, that not only did we have the majority of the action, like most of the pro players, like there, including like Justin Wong and to name at least a few, but we were actually outdoing MLG, who had scheduled over us.
Wow. I didn't know that it had made those type of strides. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm not surprised. But so, do you want Youmacon to have a real place? Because this is actually something I've had a conversation with a friend of mine about. Because he's mainly just strictly just like a straight up gamer. He doesn't really like a lot of Japanese or anime type stuff. And I kind of one of the things I used to say to him is like, hey, Youmacon, you have, games, you have all sort of different, things to do. It's not just, even though the concentration may be more of like an anime con, it's not just an anime con. It's more than that. One of the things I want to know from you though is, do you want Youmacon to have a place in like the competitive platform, like to be able to compete with something like an Evo, or maybe not necessarily compete, but to be comparable in terms of its status, in terms of its acclaim, where you have developers that want to debut something there?
Absolutely. that is like one of our long-term goals there. But again, right now we are taking steps to reevaluate it and figure out how we can best push things. Now, of course, we're having a few growing things right now, but once we're at that stage, trust me, you'll know it.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
really want to see that. Like, especially something like I mean, I love going to the gaming room already, but to actually see it, where you even have developers want to debut something there, that would just be magical right there. Especially in Detroit, because I think about how much we actually get here, and I'm like, you know, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm like, people get excited about the auto show. That's not what I get excited about. So I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with cars, but I get excited about Youmacon. That's like the one thing I look forward to every year. It's like a little piece of like Japan, because I love Japan, just dropping into Detroit.
Agreed.
Now, that's actually one of the other big mission goals of Youmacon, and it has been since year one. Now, it's like I've lived in this region most of my life, as I assume you have as well.
Yes. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness, yes.
Now, that's honestly one of my absolute favorite things is when I'm showing, like videos of Youmacon, that people have taken. It's like I'll show that thing, I'll show them pictures, and I'll tell them, it's like, hey, look at this. And now, would you ever imagine that this was Detroit?
A
The
lot of
stuff that
No.
people will
looks
tell
on
you no.
people's faces is amazing because they can't fathom that. They think Detroit and they think RoboCop.
Really.
They
And I,
think we picture Gary Indiana's like. But the thing is that they don't understand the actual dynamic. So one of the actual like of what the city is really like. So one of our key missions has always been from the start to help promote, it's like tourism and education about Detroit itself.
yeah, I mean, I think that that's good because I mean, a lot of times there are people that I actually know, that live out of town. I mean, I don't think it's so much anymore, but I can remember a period maybe going back a few years ago, where I knew other YouTubers. I used to do a little bit of YouTube videos in the past. I did little reviews, and some of them I communicate like, "Hey, why don't you guys come out to Youmacon?" And some of them would maybe like live in New York, and they have this whole different perception. So I think it's so refreshing to have an environment where people aren't you know it doesn't it gives off an amazing image, and it's not even just giving it off, it shows that we're more about than just that. I feel like Youmacon shows a different side of the spirit of Detroit. Like, people always talk about the spirit of Detroit. It's like the part of the spirit of Detroit that you don't see. Sometimes you see people go to games, you can see them go to, like, the Red Wings or whatever, but no, like, you get to see the inner otaku in them. Even though some people don't like I guess, or say that the word otaku is like a bad word, but I don't think it's so much as a bad word. I mean, it's kind of just means nerd, but
Because again, I mean, we need to show people that it's like Detroit is more than just hockey town. I mean, we have the city itself and the region has so much to offer that again, you think about, it's like most people outside, they picture it's like they think, this desolate wasteland like we saw in once again RoboCop. Ironically, still one of my absolute favorite movies.
oh yeah, RoboCop. I
Oh
haven't, I
yes.
haven't seen the new one. I haven't seen the new
Um, you're not missing much. Don't worry. It's like it was honestly a forgettable summer movie that was extremely toned down. Now, because it's like you have to remember this new RoboCop film was literally just like a whipped together. It was just supposed to be a summer blockbuster. That was their hope in any case. That it's like I mean it was when I say toned down, I mean toned down because the movie was PG-13.
one. Original.
Now,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much now Now, what do you know about the? Do you know anything about the history of RoboCop itself? The original.
Not how it was made. No, I don't know the
I've
history.
seen the
I
originals.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
seen the original too.
Yeah, it's like the original is an absolutely amazing film. There's just so much like behind it, but one thing that you actually need to know about the film is that the original film itself was so violent and graphic that they actually had to remove scenes just to bring it out to make it rated R.
I did not know that.
They literally
What?
It's like the
Some John
movie,
Wick type
it's like
stuff.
was so graphic and violent that they actually created the X rating for.
Wow. I didn't know that it had that kind of pristine, like, or how would I say, like, had that much of a influence to be able to actually create. I didn't know what you were saying as far as the fact that it even had a violence with it. It sounds like John Wick or something. like how John Wick, you have like I think it has the highest kill count, in like a movie. Have you seen John Wick?
I've seen a little bit of it. I've been meaning to actually sit down and watch both movies. My brothers have them, so I just need to get off my rear and actually go over to their place.
Oh, definitely, definitely do that. I mean, be prepared for some violence, but I mean, you're gonna be seeing it like almost every second after like the intro, but you know, it's worth it though. It's not like just like nonsense. Have you ever actually curious, have you ever been to Japan before?
I have always dreamed of going to Japan. Unfortunately, I have not yet had the opportunity to do so.
Wow. This man can
I
align
know.
you on it.
It's like I can bring people over from here. It's getting the time and actual personal funds to actually do it. That's
Yes,
always a
true.
trick.
True.
Yeah, that's not easy. I know what you're saying. I mean, trust me, when you actually have the opportunity to go, like you're gonna, it's gonna be an amazing time. I mean, trust me, like I feel like, and I really do. I mean, when I say about Youmacon feeling like a little taste of Japan, because I've been to Japan before, So, I mean, granted, I went to Youmacon before I went to Japan, but even once I, went to Japan and I came back, I still feel the same way. Like, it's like it's like a little like someone just giving you like a little bit of soup and just get like the
A
perfect,
taste.
perfect, yeah, perfect taste on the first try though. Like, like the first taste and how's is the best taste. So.
But no, it's been one of my dreams to go since I was, a kid. And I'm hoping to make that actually a reality sometime next year.
Oh shoot.
Uh-oh.
I suggest where are you trying to aim for? Like what cities?
That's the tough part, of course. And actually, I'd be going on somebody else's schedule, essentially, because it'll be my purpose to go out there specifically to actually start to talk to some of the actual companies themselves.
Oh, okay then. I mean, I was gonna say like you should check out Kyoto, but I mean, do what you got to do. I mean, if you have time, I kind of recommend Kyoto only because I feel like Kyoto has the perfect balance between like not feeling like you're back in Detroit, and actually, getting a taste of Japan, but at the same time, not being like, I guess maybe super, super, super rural, It's like, I mean, it's got that traditional side, but not too much of it. I mean, granted, I like the traditional Japan, but like, it's just right, just right. Plenty of vending machines too.
Yeah, it's like, and of course, the super geek in me just really, really wants to spend like at least a day in Akihabara.
Oh yeah. Now I will say, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's a little overhyped. I went there. I was super hyped. Don't get me wrong. I was excited. I was ecstatic. But it really depends on what your taste is, because I feel like you'll find a lot of other stuff in Japan, or a lot of other anime shops in Japan, depending on where you go, and they'll have, a lot of a lot of the different manga or anime that we just spoke on throughout this show. But I feel like actually when I went to a lot of the different stores in Akihabara, when I went up on the different levels, it kind of started to trend more in the, how would I say without it being like very out there. I guess the best way to describe it is it was very out there. It was more etchy like and going trending in that direction, if you get what I mean. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's cool to go to. Like, I would definitely say go to it, but don't get your hopes up too much for Akihabara. It's not exactly, at least to me, it wasn't exactly what I thought it would be. Now, I would say go to the Gundam Cafe because I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that
Oh
actually
yes.
okay. Go to that, and there's two different Gundam cafes. There's the one right by Akihabara, and then there's also another one that's in the district of Odaiba, and they're both in Tokyo. So I would
Hmm.
suggest going to both of those. Don't know if you care about Pokemon, but I would suggest going to the Pokemon Center, because I mean, who doesn't want to at
Mm-hmm.
least get something from Pokemon Center? Get a Gundam keychain from the Gundam Cafe though, because those are awesome, and a mug. Although they could have a little bit more, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling.
That's gonna be the dangerous thing, is making sure I only bring, like so much space to bring, stuff back with me. It's like, oh, do you have anything to declare? No.
Bring an empty
But
can. Like, I mean, have your bag, but I would probably keep things minimal. I just would bring like at least one empty suitcase and just fill it up, because that's gonna be filled up. I'm like, no, you're gonna
now,
see trinkets everywhere.
now actually, yeah, it's like, again, I've been, I've been dying to go out to, like Japan itself, since I was a kid, and that has only grown in the years. It's like I've been doing everything here, but we have a lot of things, interesting coming out now. Of course, we've got a great, rapport, actually. Now, there's a few things that most people don't know, including that now some of our signature events have actually made, like, different, let's say, international footnotes. We actually, and I really need to find this article again, but there is a city in Japan called Tendo, and what they're known for is the game shogi. The
Yeah.
majority of the shogi pieces in the world are actually made there in Tendo, and annually they actually host a live game of shogi where they actually use people as the actual. Youmacon has many signature events,
Mm-hmm.
including like our maid cafe, which actually has the distinction of being the very any outside of Japan.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I mean I didn't know that. I mean, I've been to the Maid Cafe before, but
Maid cafe, Japan. Period. And then our
Interesting.
other signature event is cosplay shogi, which again we use cosplayers in character as the individual chess pieces. Now, this was actually taken note of by the actual officials of the city of Tendo. And at the time, due to our things, they had actually mentioned they considered Detroit, because of our event, as a sister city.
wow.
Who does that? What? It's like, what anywhere is willing to consider Detroit as a sister city?
Oh man,
Oh
I mean,
wow.
I know. I don't really know many circumstances. I mean, the only other sister city that I know, and it's not with Detroit. It's with like another city in Michigan. Is like a friend of mine says like the city of Yasu or something. Is like I think it's I forget which town it is. I don't know, but I'm like it's not even important. But I'm like, but yeah, I definitely think that's crazy. You know, the city of Tendo. I'm like, where do you know where that's by? Like, is it like close to like Tokyo, Kyoto? Like what region of prefecture is it in Japan?
All right. Let me find that real quick.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
All right.
I would definitely visit it if I were you. You know, just because of that, like it's almost like you have a special connection with them now.
It looks like that's over in Yamagata.
Yamakata.
So it is north of Fukushima.
Yeah, I think I know exactly.
So it is well north of Tokyo.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm like, I never been to that part of Honshu, but then again, I've only been to Japan once, so I guess there's a lot of places I haven't been. But I guess what was I gonna say? The Maid Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly have to say, like, do you like how come the Maid Cafe isn't something that you guys do 24 hours or not 24 hours, or do it as a 3 day event, it's only a 1 day event. Is there a reason for that, or because I mean,
It was one of those. It was one of those things we've been contemplating it, but actually, as of I believe it was it last year or is it this? I believe last year we actually extended it to being a 2 day event, so it was Friday and Saturday. And we're continuing that moving
Yes,
forward.
I remember that.
Now, of course, the big reason that we're also not doing it currently on Sunday as well is because we have so many events that are going on, and just concurrently, it's usually bad timing for most attendees, as that's when they're trying to check out of their hotels.
yeah, it makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Why you wouldn't? Because then it's like, okay, I want to go, but at the end of the day, got to head out, especially if you're in the Renaissance Center. Um, I'm like, we all know how that can get with get with everything in there. But I
Those
mean, I
lines.
always think, yeah, but I always think it's the best view though. To be honest, if you like looking out the window and everything, you get to see like the city or whatever. It's like the best time to see it. But I guess before we wrap things up, because we're getting ready to wrap things up really soon. We're like at that final stretch. Nico, what questions did you have for Morgan?
Well, the only last question I had left, because I know you mentioned Trigun was one of your favorites, but I'm not sure if this is your favorite or not. But just as a staple for any anime fan, period, what is your favorite anime up to this date?
Uh, that's a really tough one, I've got to say. I mean, for years on end, Trigun was my absolute favorite. But then there's so many. Right now, of course, some of my biggest obsessions are My Hero Academia, and even like I just finished watching Yuri on Ice.
Yuri on
It's a
Ice.
sports one. It's only episodes, and all I can say is set aside a day because you're gonna not going to want to stop watching it.
Yes, I've heard.
But no, like recently, like I just finished watching Mobile Suit Gundam: Iron Blooded Orphans. Probably one of the best Gundam series we've seen come out in
Oh,
years.
yes.
'Cause, yeah, Gundam 00 was a great series. Setsuna was such a strong, main character, and unlike some of the later UC Gundams, we actually saw character development, which was very, very good, and which was very important, especially after, well, how terrible like Seed Destiny was, where you literally saw zero character development and character digression at some points. But no, like Gundam 00, fantastic series, but Iron Blooded Orphans is probably one of my absolute favorites right now of the
I'm gonna
series.
have to really give it a chance then, because yeah, I mean, I know I'm super hardcore with Double O. Not even just like like I mean, I like Alleluia a lot in Double O. I like probably every character like
Yeah.
Aquan. I mean, I don't
Which
actually mind. Well, the actually the first one.
okay.
Neo Blondie. The second one was okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with really either one of them, but I don't know what you're not. You don't like what was it Tierra? Do you, Nico?
Uh, he grew on me a little bit, a little later on, but I still find him to be, an annoying prick. So,
But yeah, I guess if I were to say overall, I guess what would my fan question be? I guess is there anything that we can expect to see that I guess we will see in the next few days coming out, like in particular, like aside from just like special guests, like because I mean I think that at this point most of the people who are following or have been watching this, they understand that, but like is there a particular event that maybe we'll be able to know a little bit about before we close this out?
Well, we don't have much in the way of like it's like we do have one announcement for you at least, and that is you are going to see the return of live action Mario Party this year.
Okay, yeah,
oh,
that's something I've seen it, I've watched it, but I've never like even tried to, I guess, participate in. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a little too shy to just like yeah, me. But
Well, no, what's great about live action Mario Party itself is it's like you do have the main participants, but it is actually full audience participation. You are squared off into one of four teams,
Hmm.
and it's really cool. Now, of course, if you want the more like it's like the one-on-one, personal ones, then of course we also have live action Donkey Kong coming back again this year.
That should be pretty interesting. Have you guys ever done like a live action like Sonic? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
Kind of. I'm a
no,
big.
not that, but we may have a few rather interesting events coming up soon. We're still working on a lot of the details, but expect to see a lot of new stuff coming out this year. We also have big announcements coming out for the end of the year as well,
Okay. Okay.
because there's a lot of stuff we have right now that we have in motion, but won't be able to come. It's like they will not be able to come into light until we are literally done with this year, because they can't be ready until literally next fall.
That makes sense. Yeah, that does. I mean, preparations. And oh, you know what? Actually, I do have one more last question. When you're
Mhm.
planning all of this out, what is the typical day like for you at a Youmacon? Because I imagine with you being, the one that's leading the pack, like, can you actually? And this is gonna sound rough to say, because I'm sure that you do enjoy it, but do you feel like you enjoy it to the same degree that you would if you were just a con goer? Like, do you feel like, because you're in a completely different position, so like, what do you actually do while the event's taking place?
Well, while the event itself is actually taking place, I'm literally everywhere. I have to be everywhere. There are a lot of things that only I'm capable of doing during the event itself, but that's not to say it's a one-man show. It's far from it. You have to understand that Youmacon itself is the culmination of so many people coming together to work together for this event. Um, we have an amazingly, it's like talented and passionate staff. Without them, the event could not take place. It's like I actually tried to keep out of the actual actions of individual departments themselves, because I have highly capable people in all those places. I know that I can trust, it's like registration. I know I can trust video gaming, dealers, live programming. Everybody knows their individual parts, and they know how to make it function. And even better is they also know how to work with the other departments. If, part A isn't working, they know who in part, D can make that come together. We have a great flow of communication. Our operations department is one of the best on the circuit. Um, Again, there's just so many amazing people out there. Again, I've also been very fortunate to come across some really talented, amazing groups out there. Very specifically, like Complete Production Systems over in Ann Arbor, who has been doing our tech since the beginning. Who's actually, it's like it's like is someone that I met through my days of role playing, which never would have come into fruition if I hadn't been a part of the Gamers Guild at Oakland University.
Oh man, I'm like, I guess shout out to the gaming guild.
It's like, again, there's so many, it's like things that it's just amazing that they all have, fallen into place. Again, I've been very fortunate to meet with some great people that are really dedicated towards this. There's people year round that are, just we are constantly working on this thing. There is never a lull time. Literally, throughout the year, we're planning for this year and the next two. There's never really a stopping point. And it's all about, it's like, it's evaluating things. Did this go well? Is this something we should, it's like, or if it didn't, is this something we should drop? Or is this something we can improve on? Here's something that went well. Can we still improve on that? Everything literally goes to enhancing the attendee experience, because that's what we were here for.
I think that anybody out there who's trying to make their own, because I know there's got to be somebody out there who's also looking to make their own convention of sorts in the future. So I mean, I would definitely say, if you are, take note of the things that this man is saying. I mean, if you have never
Well,
been to Youmacon.
now actually, I will say this, and I really it's like should say this part too. It's like for those people that are interested in like starting their own event, best advice that I give them is don't. You really don't know what you're getting into. Now, I say this not just from a few standpoints. Now, when I first started Youmacon, I did this because it was something that I was extremely passionate about. I wanted to be able to share the experiences that I had, and I knew I'd be able to build on that. I'd be able to, I know I say this a lot, but I'm really there to build lasting memories for people. I want to be able to create an experience that will, it's like inspire others. But at the same time, it literally is a round-the-clock job. It has, I mean, there are so many people now. Again, I now have, people that, work for me that have their own businesses because they couldn't keep up with it with also maintaining a normal job.
That
It
makes sense.
is all-encompassing, but the other part of the matter is that there are a significant amount of events out there right now. Like, the convention market itself is very, very, very saturated, and it's great when people have that passion and they want to actually express that and share what it's like those passions with others. But at the same time, I really feel like there are a lot of great events out there. If you want to share that passion, it's like, by all means, it's like there's a lot of events. Join with us. Literally, it's like we're always looking for great staff. There's other conventions that are looking for, amazing volunteers or panelists. There's so many ways that people can actually engage. But starting a convention, it's more than just, putting in the time, because you're literally investing your life into this.
That was some real stuff,
So it's
people.
like, again, I really applaud people that come out there, but I mean, I really get people coming to me all the time saying, "Hey, how can I start up my own show?" And I really advise people to support it's like their existing shows. If they want to see, it's like if there's something that they want to see done at an event that isn't currently being done, then really it's like talk to us. We want to find out what more can we do, what more can we offer up, because again, at the end of the day, we're there for the attendees. It's all about the experience. And anything we can do to enhance that experience, we'll do our best to do so.
And I'm guessing that's why you have the logo, or the logo is like a big flame. At least to me, I'm like, it's almost like I can feel that passion just from hearing you talk right now. It's like that logo is like perfect to like symbolize, I guess, what I hear coming out of your voice right now. Like, it's almost visionary. So, you know, thank you for coming on here today.
Well, thank you again, guys. It's been great. Love to come on, another time. Still plenty more to go over with you guys in the future if you'd like.
Oh, most
Very
definitely.
well.
We love to have you on here. Just I guess let us know when. um, anyway, thank you everybody for checking out the Shining Spotlight with Morgan Kollin today. I'm gonna give him a round of applause again.
Yes, thank you.
Everything that he's done thus far, and that he's inspired a lot of people. We're going to be letting you guys know within the next week or so our next guest that we're going to have on board on the Shining Spotlight. So make sure you look for the updates on that. Make sure you like the page so that you can see the following updates that come through. Also, make sure that if you're not really acquainted with Youmacon, or even if you are acquainted with Youmacon, that you go to the Youmacon Facebook page and give them a like. In fact, I would say definitely do that first, because Youmacon is amazing. I'm telling you, if you want to come to this con, you'll meet a lot of people, you'll see a lot of people, and it's more than just seeing or meeting a lot of people. How many 24-hour cons do you know? I mean, seriously, like, that's to me a different experience altogether. You have to take days off of work. Well, you don't really have to take days off from work. It depends on, I guess, what your schedule is, but if you work during the weekends or whatever, you have to take days off from work, and it's worth it. I'm not kidding. If you even like anime a little, even if you don't like anime, come to Youmacon, because at the end of the day, it's an experience that you can have, that you will be able to actually, like, how would I say? I can't even put it into words, but you'll know what I mean once you get there. Everybody's
Well,
friendly, everybody's nice.
well, there's two things that I can say that wrap this up on my end at least. One, it's like when it comes to, it's like checking out the event, if it's your very first time, all I can say is We look forward to meeting you and your expectations.
Thank you.
Very well. Anyway, with that said, people, catch you all later.